We're getting back on track here with Catherine and Emily, but as you know, we won't stay there for long because this is the Going Off Track podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Going Off Track podcast. I'm Catherine. That's Emily. We are resuming the conversation that we had started at the last episode. We had ended up cutting our liveries and helmets portion. You're welcome, because this was verging on a 90-minute episode. So here are, once we get to the cut, you will see our thoughts on the F-175 event, our thoughts on driver helmets, our reaction to Drive to Survive, and our thoughts on testing. And of course, we also went in like 14 other different directions. So that is part of this episode. So enjoy. Now, speaking of global events, we had the F-175 kickoff event a couple weeks ago, the Livery event, and it was a lot. I don't know if you had the chance to watch it, but I did watch it with guesty bestie Adam, and it was a weird event. I know why the teams didn't like it, but they kind of reluctantly went along with it. And it was fine. Like, a lot of people were dragging it for, being a bad, awkward, weird event, but it was honestly fine. I was entertained. We fast forwarded through all the musical performances. Was it
Wait,
necessary?
there were musical performances?
Yeah, there were musical performances throughout.
My God. Of course there were.
Yeah.
So I caught like bits and pieces, and like obviously the reveals and some of like the awkward walks by different people, and like really confused on what Liam Lawson thought this event was.
Yes.
But like and also like the bits. So Jack Whitehall is one of my favorite comedians. Love him. I love how he's like the token Brit to host anything exciting.
I thought he was good.
He's a great presenter, and I think he makes jokes in such a like haha lighthearted way that no one can be offended, or like that's the intention, obviously. But I thought he did a really good job. I thought he like kept it going and kept it like light and bright and fun while we were kind of like suffering on the back end. At least that's how I felt from some of the clips. I didn't have time to sit and watch it, but I did catch some clips on Instagram. I missed that there was musical performances. Whoops.
You didn't miss
they
much.
Weren't good enough to make it to Instagram Reels.
So here's the thing. So some of the musical performances were just like whatever, and then there was the musical performance that introed Alpine, and this was done by the DJ, for those of you who did watch it, is a man named Brian Tyler, who is known for doing the F1 theme, but he also has this experimental music side project, which is what we saw. I don't remember.
No, not the experimental side project.
Yeah, it was an experimental side project. He's got one of those funny modern, shaven haircuts, and he was wearing a big old puffer jacket, and it was like just 5 minutes of him bopping around while mixing whatevers, and it was just like, is Brian Tyler okay? Is he having a midlife crisis? Because I think he might be.
Oh my God. Please tell me that Martin Garrix came out to either do McLaren or Red Bull. That's such a missed opportunity.
I know. But instead we had Brian Tyler introducing Alpine with his weird dancing whatevers. And it was a lot. And then there was another musical guest before Haas. There was one before Aston Martin that they needed to have because Fernando and Lance like entered up, in the stadium. So they needed to have something to fill time to get them downstairs, changed into their race suits out of the suits that they were wearing, and then onto the stage with the team principal and the CEO. And so like it was a little weird, but it was entertaining enough. And they did joke about Max's fight with George in a way that I think entertained everybody and didn't really offend anyone.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a work in process, right? Like, or progress, whatever. Process? Work in
progress.
Process? Work in progress. So, like, words. I think, first year they do it for 75. If they do something cool that really grabs your attention, maybe the musical guests are a bit more
better,
mainstream and better and cooler, and maybe they, rotate where they do this. I think it could really be successful. I truly do. Especially if you get like Netflix to stream it. I think that would be a great, partnership opportunity.
Yeah. The problem
if
is,
think about it too. Oh gosh. now I'm just going, Catherine. You can't stop me. But like, you could also drop the trailer for Drive to Survive at this event. Like, it could be a big thing. It could. I think the potential is there.
The potential is there. The problem is that the teams didn't really have a choice but to attend because this is part of the F175, events. But the teams want to do their own events to drop their liveries and announce their cars. And the reasons why is when they have 10 separate events for all 10 teams, soon to be 11, those teams can charge money for those people to come to these events. Whereas when this event is thrown, everybody is paying money, buying tickets to O2 Arena. That's going to Formula One itself. It's not going to the teams. So the teams want to throw their own events, and they also want to throw the events in their own way. Like, you saw a lot of uniqueness with the way that they announced each team, but it was all within the same constraints of like the stage and the stage design and the arena and how many people that they can bring. And so there was a lot of uniqueness, but there was only like so much uniqueness that you can have, where like the cars can only be in certain places on the stage and things like that.
I get that, but like, you can fix a lot of that easily, right? Like, get Netflix in as the streamer. They'll pay a bunch of money. You'll make a ton of money on this event selling tickets. Fork over a little slice to the teams, and then they'll participate, right? If you have this pull and draw from streaming and ticket sales and stuff like that, advertising, whatever, you can afford to give a little bit to the teams, and then that can encourage their participation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was a good experiment. I think that it went on well. I mean, Gordon Ramsay said shit on TV, and everybody started, and he basically said that the FIA needs to back off on cursing, which is funny. I read something today that Mika Hakkinen said. God, what did he say? It was funny. He's like, the devil's words as response to curse words, and I'm like, sir, calm down.
That whole thing. Like, I mean, I guess that's also news that we can talk about. But the whole swearing thing is so dumb. I think it was Max saying, like, we're not children. Like, we are full-grown adults. Chill the F out.
Yeah, and Max is also seen flipping someone off in the car during testing, which was funny. And we'll talk about testing in a little bit. Not that there was really much to talk about. But, the one thing that I have to say on the cursing is maybe don't curse in the official F1 press conferences.
Yeah,
but
like, you save it for time and place.
Yeah, like time and a place, that's probably not it. But you can curse in the car. I curse in the car all the time. And I don't think that the FIA needs to go, so far as to remove the public's access to listen to the radios, because that's part of why we enjoy the sport. And you're going to lose a big part of your audience if the FIA says, no, you cannot listen to the driver radios anymore. And the driver radios are bleeped. So if a small child, say 6-year-old Catherine, sees, Yuki Tsunoda say star, exclamation point, and it's all bleeped out, and I turn to my dad and I say, what did he say? And he says, that's a word for adults. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. Easy fix.
Yeah, it's really not that difficult. And, even like Ollie Behrman said, I can't afford to curse and get those, those fines.
Almost half are rookies. They make no money. If you're going to fine them that much, which, like, I get what you're trying to do, but the fines need to be, like,
proportional.
Realistic. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I just, yes, they're athletes and they're professional athletes and they make more money than
professional
the average
athletes
Joe.
say bad words.
Right, exactly. And like,
I'm watching a basketball game. There are going to be many bad words said at this basketball game.
But you don't say it in the press conference room. Like, that's the thing. You don't
say it to the referee.
Room. Yes, exactly. And I think, that's how they need to do it. But well, again, we'll complain no matter what.
I just think that this is not the hill that Mohammed Ben Salem needs to be dying on.
No, there's a lot of things that he could fix.
Yeah.
And this is not one that is, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about the liveries themselves, because as we know about us, we have tons of opinions.
Do we want to talk about all of them, or do we want to just hit the highlights? Because I feel like some are very unremarkable.
I mean, some are very unremarkable. We can talk about them really quickly, but I think that we we should just really quickly go through them all, and then we'll live through it. I know that you don't want to do this, but we're going to talk about the steak car. It'll be 2 seconds of talking about how much we don't like the steak car.
The steak car sucks. Moving on. The mean green machine, and now they are the less green, less mean blah car, and I'm over it. I hate it. It's stupid.
No, this is the
Fire
same
the livery designer.
This is the same green that we had in their special flame livery at the end of last year. My biggest problem is that the gradient stops very abruptly before the end of the car stops. And
it's because they ran out of money, Catherine.
They did. Well, yes, but you would think that when you're wrapped by not one but two gambling organizations, that you would be able to find some money somewhere, and that you're not funneling all of your money into your marketing and your social media admin who's just busy making steak puns all day. Which I do appreciate that they're finally getting into the steak puns, because like they didn't for a year and it was just sitting right there waiting for them to
I think
because
it was too easy, low-lying fruit. I think they were trying to, be above that, but I'm glad that they've stooped.
Well, now they're just making a stand in their last year before they become Audi, and then I'm sure Audi will come in with its own fun set of problems, but we'll get there in a year.
Yes.
We will be less of the podcast that talks about the future this year, so help me gosh.
I don't believe us.
I don't either.
Anyways, so Williams, basically the same, new title sponsor. Yes. I want them to go back to the Golf. I love the Golf variation, but it is what it is.
But I love the Golf variation, but I don't want to lose the Duracell battery.
No, the Duracell battery is the best. Honestly, whoever came up with that is just like genius. I would like to shake their hand.
A+, you get a raise. Yeah. But then let's talk about what is obviously
the best car on the grid every year.
Of the year, every year, is the Racing Bulls, which we will probably still call them V-Carb anyway because we're used to it by now. But that car, which is an homage to the old white Red Bulls, is beautiful. I love everything about that car. I wouldn't
change a thing. I love it. So good. Why can't they design liveries for everyone, you ask? That is a question we'll never know.
They need to clone their livery designer and give one of those people to every team to make good liveries. Like even like the little like gradient of little bulls on the backs of the back of the car is just like such a subtle little design addition, and it looks so freaking good.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure we'll hype them up. I'm sure they'll have great alternative liveries just like they do every year. They can't go wrong. I mean, they're not driving great, so their car has to look good, but I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
So. And then you have Haas.
Honestly, I really like the Haas. They went from a black car to a white car, and I just think that when looking at all the cars at the very end of the livery reveal, they were side by side and they really stood out, and I thought they stood out in a good way. It's not as good as the Racing Bulls, but I still think that it was nice for them to go, instead of being the another all black car, they went to white this year.
I agree. I think the white and even just color in general really stands out. I think it's better visually on the grid. Like it's so easy to find McLaren because it's bright orange, right? They've added more black, but I also applaud teams for really, putting the livery and not just doing carbon fiber.
Right.
And I really like the move of Haas because they were all black, pretty much all carbon fiber last year. I really like that they've, taken a step forward and been like, hey, let's not be another black car on the grid. So I do appreciate them from that angle, but it's not my favorite.
Right. Which, speaking of cars using less carbon fiber this year, Alpine, I won't say that Alpine looks good, but Alpine looks colorful this year because they are all very pink and blue, and you can tell that's an Alpine, not a weird-looking Mercedes.
Exactly. Yeah, I think they took everyone's notes last year and applied them.
They mocked the notes, but then they took them.
Yes, I am still waiting for Pink Camo to make an appearance, and I feel like Pierre Gasly is just trolling us with his blue camo helmet. But I'm still hopeful.
Yeah.
I would like to skip over an Aston Martin because I couldn't tell you if it was 2024 or 2025, and quite frankly, I don't care.
Legitimately, it looks the same. And I also looked side by side when I was doing the rundown for this episode, and I could not find differences. I wasn't looking that very closely, but they look basically the same.
I mean, I get it. They're putting all of their money into the design of the car, not the design of the livery. It is all green. It is very noticeable.
It's an Aston Martin.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's an Aston Martin. Daddy Stroll doesn't care.
Yeah, they're not going to be a team that goes balls to the walls with their liveries like V-Carb.
Correct.
They're going to be more like a Red Bull than Mercedes.
Yeah. Speaking of Mercedes, I think we're back. It's not my favorite because I think no one can top V-Carb, but it's good. I do like it.
I really like it. The stars on the back of the car are very similar to the little bulls on the Racing Bulls car. The black silver gradient is nice. They're sticking with that theme, as they made the shift, last year going from black to silver as part of the silver arrows. Reluctantly, it's one of my favorite liveries.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely better than most, but again, V-Carb just can't be topped. So I think it might be in my top 3, maybe.
It's in mine too.
Yeah.
And then Red Bull, same car as it is every year, just different sponsors, but we're not surprised.
No, it's not a surprise. It is what it is. It's fine.
It's even why Red Bull focused in the livery reveal on their theme overall this year is like the everyday driver, and driving and motorsport is for everyone. So they really focused on that instead of the car itself, which is fine. I mean, the Red Bull livery is never going to change.
Yeah. Kind of same vein of never changing, except for the god awful HP car last year. Ferrari, I hate. Like, I hate it. It's so bad. It's just like, come on, we need to do better.
Yeah, not only do we still have the HP logos on the wings, and the wings the wings are white for some reason, and there's that panel, the big white panel on the back. I really don't like it. Adam really likes the Ferrari car, and I am judging Adam for it, and he knows it. I just think that the car needs to be all red.
Questionable man at this point.
We love him, but he has weird opinions sometimes.
I don't mind like a mix of red, white, and yellow. Like, I think it would be cool and different to do like, whatever. Like, I want to see a huge like horse on the side of the Ferrari in like yellow and crazy, and just like go balls to the wall, cool design. We have the money for it. But it's just,
I think Enzo Ferrari would come back from the dead and haunt the team if that ever happened.
I understand.
But I don't disagree. And I just really like that white panel on the side with the HP logo.
It's so bad.
Is awful. Like, it should just be like, let it be red and let the HP logo be there and exist and look weird. But we understand why it's there because it is their title sponsor. But making the HP logo stand out takes away from what the fundamental, like, if you have a list of rules of what makes a Ferrari livery part of the Ferrari brand, it has to violate at least all of them.
Yeah. And then we have McLaren, who, like, they've added a little bit more black, I feel like, but that's the only change because they're honoring the 2024 car.
I think it's such a cop-out. I think it's such a cop-out. I don't like it.
But again, like, the car works, right?
Yeah.
Like, the orange is recognizable. They've already established that. And I think we're just looking for orange. We're not looking for, McLaren to have the craziest design, because we know when they, like, go for it, they get the dumbest looking car ever. So they're like, you know what? This is our lane. We're sticking to it. It doesn't bother me. Like, I think
I just don't like the excuse.
I agree. But also, it could reign true because they're like, hey, we're really proud of it. We're honoring. Like, does it make more sense to do it in 20 years? Absolutely. As it like an
if you're going to honor a championship winning car, honor one of the championship winning cars. It's white and red.
Exactly. Yeah. So, whatever. That's the liveries.
But yeah, it's still the Racing Bulls for me. Like, that's the livery of the year again.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a lot that I don't like just because they didn't change anything, but again, I get it. It is what it is. I think the ones that changed and suck is steak. Like that, it's the worst for me. But.
Yeah, that one changed for the better. The ones that didn't change were all like mostly fine. Ferrari is in the trash, and I think Haas going white was a good idea.
Agreed. Okay. Quickly and efficiently, Catherine, we can talk about helmets.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about all 20 helmets because then we would really be here for an hour and a half, and I am already talked out. But I think, first of all, before we talk about our top 3 favorite helmets, let's just talk about Lewis's helmet because I don't like it.
Well, I'm going to say two words. Ferrari handcuffs.
Yes.
You know how I was talking about earlier, how like Carlos got his soul back? Like Lewis has given up and signed his soul away to Ferrari. You can see that in his helmet design. He's never had a more boring, bland helmet in his racing career. It sucks. It's sad. I hate the yellow. Whoever would decide on an all yellow helmet.
But like it's not even just like an all yellow helmet, it's that yellow. Like you can make a case for
bad.
Lando's helmet being a yellow helmet. And like it's a very greenish yellow helmet.
It's not yellow. It's like neon green.
This is one of the like most disappointing shades of yellow. It's like putting mustard on top of a ketchup race suit.
But it's not, and that's the thing. Like the Ferrari logo's at the front because it has to be because they're Ferrari. But it's not even the same yellow.
If it was the same yellow as the Ferrari logo, that would be a whole other ballgame.
It's so bad.
Yeah, I don't like it. I will say that I like it more in person than in photos because when I've seen, videos and like stuff with him in the car, it looks slightly less terrible than this one static photo that I'm looking at right now. But I still do not like it. Fundamentally, I'm looking at all 20 driver helmets right now, and it stands out and it catches the eye in a way that annoys me.
Yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just keep talking about ones we hate. Liam Lawson, like, stop trying so hard. George Russell, I still hate. What is the another one?
I don't love Bertoletto's.
So I think it's kind of cool. I think it's different. It's poppy, but it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate what Hulk is doing with his, but, like, I don't love it.
I actually like Hulk's.
I don't know. It's not my favorite.
No. But I do think if we want to, let's do favorites. I think Carlos's is my favorite.
Oh, and I hate it.
You hate Carlos's helmet?
I don't like it. No, and like I get it. He's sticking with like the Spanish colors and like the homage to the Spanish flag, which I love it. He's a proud Spaniard. But like it looks too much like, oh, I still have my old Ferrari helmet and I'm like holding on to Ferrari, so just like put a little blue and it'll be Williams. You know what I mean?
I mean, I can see that, but I do enjoy it, and I feel like it has more. It looks more than just the typical red helmet he's wearing at Ferrari. So I feel like it's giving a little bit more of his personality compared to like
That's fair.
What is Charles's helmet, but a combination of an homage to Ferrari and Monaco. And then
that's all he is.
That's all he
to Monaco.
That's it.
It's his whole personality.
Yeah. But I will say, and we made fun of Gasly's helmet a little bit, I actually do like of all of them, that's one of the ones that I really do like.
Yeah, I honestly, I really like Kimi Antonelli's. I think it's really cool. And I think it goes to show, like, you don't have to be George and just stick with one color to, like,
have a cool Mercedes helmet. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I also think
it's super interesting.
I like Jack Doohan's. It gives a little bit Evel Knievel, but
it does. I honestly think it's in that vein. And like, and to be honest, I was like, wait, is Logan Sargent still on the grid? Because it just screams like American Eagle helmet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not bad. I think Piastri's is so much better that he went black instead of blue like he did last year. I think that's a really good switch. I think Stroll's is as like vanilla as his personality.
Yeah.
It is just so incredibly boring. So now that we're talking about all the helmets, I think, we've nailed it. I think, and
as
again, I still think Norris has the best helmet. I really do.
It was a great helmet when he released it, but I would have liked to see him do something different. Like, it's the same helmet this year. And I'm like, I know you don't have to change your helmet every year. Max has the same helmet, just with 4 stars now. But I will... It's like Lando's helmet is Lando's helmet. I want to see another basketball. I want to see.
But he'll do those.
Stickers.
You know what I mean?
He will.
I think in Lando's mind, the greats of F1 had the same helmet. It's like the Senna helmet is so iconic, and I think this is his iconic helmet, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I like it.
Yeah.
It's
And
good.
then I will say I'm disappointed in Yuki because Yuki's helmet last year was one of my favorites. And it's very similar to like
It's the
leaf.
same.
The leaf design is very similar, but it's white instead of blue. And I really liked the blue with the leaves much better. And then we have to talk about Liam Lawson for a
I already
second.
said it's terrible. It's god awful.
It's
Like,
pink.
I don't know what he's trying to do. I think he's trying to be like so like I'm so cool, like I'm a rookie, but I'm not because I've been here, and like I'm not excited to see him on the grid, and I hope
know
he
you're not.
really suffers. And you know what? I hope. I
Yuki
mean,
gets the call up.
I will eat my shirt, but I want him to drive so badly. We're all wishing that Checo was back. That's my hope.
Yeah, I think you're gonna eat your shirt, my friend.
I know, but no, I'm really hoping for the Yuki call up. Honestly, it'll
we'll
probably
see.
be Hadjar because that's how it rolls at Red Bull, but whatever.
Because Helmet Marco does not like Yuki. But anyway, let's talk about the Drive to Survive trailer reaction real quick because we have a trailer reaction.
So here's the only thing. Like, I have a lot of opinions, but number one highlight is I love whoever named episode 4 Carlos Sainz. How creative. I love it. I'm obsessed. I'm so excited. I'm a little disappointed that I feel like all of his contract drama is going to be so early in the season. I feel like that should definitely be like episode 7 or 8, but whatever. I also, from just the titles, I feel like Alpine is going to have 27 episodes again, which
even
makes
from
no
the
sense.
trailer, Alpine is going I sent you just like sentence of my thoughts on the trailer, and the first one is Flavio Briatore is evil, and this is stuff that happened last year, so this isn't even counting the stuff that he's going to pull off this year that Netflix hasn't even mentioned. But from what we saw in the trailer, we've got Flavio Briatore being the Formula One cartoon villain, no Checo Perez whatsoever.
Love
the Christian Horner redemption tour. I really thought that there was going to be a lot less Christian Horner coverage in Drive to Survive this year, but half the trailer was Christian and Jerry.
Yep.
Gunther Steiner commenting on the firing, which I'm assuming they put Gunther in the trailer to get the draw of the Gunther fans, but he's really only going to have one little bit.
Well, yes or no. He could also just be like the Claire of last season.
Which also I think we're going to have Claire too. So It could be that, but I don't know. I don't think we're going to have the cornerstone of Drive to Survive that we've had the first 6 years of Drive to Survive with Gunther. We're going to have a frustrated Toto where it looks like we're going to go pretty in depth into the Carlos Sainz appendix saga, which means that we're also probably going to have a lot of Ollie Behrman, which I'm really excited about. So I think that there's going to be a lot of really good stuff and a lot of really good behind the scenes of stuff that we have lived through over the last year.
Yeah. Like, I'm excited to see. I really hope that, like, we get to see Ollie. I don't think we'll see as much of Franco Colapinto as we're all wanting to see, unfortunately. But who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting, and we'll do a whole Drive to Survive reaction like we did last year, but it'll be really interesting to see what we lived through and what was front and center with us versus what Drive to Survive is going to put front and center and what Drive to Survive is going to minimize, which I think is going to be really, really interesting.
I agree.
But I think it's going to be a good season.
I don't think we'll see any of the Max saga with, like, the fines and everything. Like, I think they will...
Yeah, I think that's gonna be minimized, and I don't know how much drama they're gonna manufacture of the Max versus Lando, because even Lando admitted at the F175 event that like a lot of that stuff was manufactured, and like he knew, which we knew, that he wasn't like, he was challenging for the title, but he wasn't really challenging for the title as much as the media portrayed him to be.
Yeah. Okay.
Before we get to testing, we also got a trailer for the new F1 movie during the livery reveal, and all I can really say is there's more Brad Pitt driving. It looks like there's going to be more drama, and it looks like there's still no plot. So this movie,
I'm not convinced there's a script for this movie, Catherine. Like, if they came out and it was a musical, I'd be like, yeah, checks out. Honestly. Like, F1 musical, sold. Like, so excited.
Well, to be fair, the Mean Girls movie trailers for the new Mean Girls movie that was based off the musical, did not show that it was a musical at all. And then suddenly people are coming to theaters and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know this was a musical."
Oh, when they no, I knew based on the casting it was going to be a musical.
Well, we did because we knew about this, but
don't put me in a generalized box, Catherine.
But the generalized people who only knew Mean Girls as that movie with Rachel McAdams,
Fair.
They did not realize that, oh, there was a whole ass Broadway musical from Mean Girls.
Yes.
Some of the songs slap, by the way, but I've never actually seen it.
I love Renee Rapp. Anyways, to get back on track here, I'm putting all of my dollars in the F1 musical bucket. That actually gets me really excited. It's the cross of two of my other worlds, Broadway and F1. I love. Anyways,
a Broadway Formula One musical would be hilarious.
There's no plot. We get to see Brad Pitt just like driving, and crashing and accidents. And honestly, this like is making me worried that this movie's actually gonna suck, and it's just it's gonna ruin my life.
I think we just we need like a real full trailer with like a little bit more substance of what's going on and why is Javier Bardem there. We know why Javier Bardem is there, but the movie is not really showing it yet, or the trailers aren't showing it.
It's brutal.
So we'll see.
Okay, testing thoughts. My highlights from testing was that
there's a bus on track.
That someone else needs to run testing next year because what the fluff was happening. But no, in all seriousness. Oh, also, wait, pause. Did you see the meme on Instagram where it was like, it's surprising move, Checo returns to track, and it's the bus?
No, we didn't.
Oh my god, I just about peed myself laughing so hard. I was like, yes, someone else is in my bucket.
That's so funny.
It was so funny though, yeah. But in all seriousness, I'm very excited to see what comes out of Williams. Like, I feel like this is the first real year of JV-led Williams.
Yes.
And I'm very excited to see how Carlos, jumps in. Carlos in the past has been very active with like feedback and testing. He did all the testing for Ferrari. That's something like he really works at and gives feedback and helps the engineers. So I think having a driver who really is passionate about that and having a TP who's like also really passionate about driving the team, I really think it's going to be a good marriage. And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. I know it's not like he's going to win races, but he even said like, I'm joining the team not for this year, but for the future. And I think as long as Williams gives him that runway, which I think they will, because like they know his driving outpaces the car, and he can only do so much with the car, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that relationship grows. But my favorite thing is that like he came out and like actually did well. I know teams were sandbagging and stuff, but it made me really excited to see how Williams does.
Yeah, I mean, do any of those times mean anything? No. But it's still good to see a car that isn't a Red Bull, a McLaren, a Ferrari, or a Mercedes topping the timing sheets at the end of the weekend of testing. Right. And, I remember at the end of the season when he did his postseason testing with Williams, he was talking about how he was trying to think about everything that he could that stood out to him about the Ferrari car to like talk about regarding setups with the Williams engineers and like everything that he could legally share with Williams so that he could help them influence the build of the car and really help them, get some insight from somebody who was driving one of the car that was the second best car on the grid this year. So yeah. I am also very optimistic about Carlos in the sense where I think he will be around the midfield. He will be, in sniffing distance / in low points. And it would probably take something really weird to happen for him to be, top 5, sniffing a podium, things like that. But I mean, look at what happened to Alpine in Sao Paulo. It's not impossible.
He'll really contend for like the 5-6 spot. Well, 6, 7.
I'm
Let's
thinking
say
more
6,
like
7.
7 through 9, early on, and then I think that they will improve to get up to that, the midpoint of the points. I think and that might be a little overly optimistic of us, and we were also really overly optimistic of Williams last year. So
Yeah.
hopefully we don't just get disappointed. But I did think it was really interesting. Red Bull was really quiet in testing. McLaren was
Which isn't
kind of
surprising.
also not surprising.
Both of them being anonymous is not surprising. I think
I wasn't even really thinking about it from Liam's car. I was thinking about like just Max, which I do
Right.
think they were definitely sandbagging, and I kind of forgot that Liam existed for a minute.
No, he does. Like, he is Max's teammate. Like, that is how I
know.
will refer to him. He is Max's teammate until he shows me otherwise, which I really hope he doesn't. Speaking of teammates, honestly, I really hope that Lewis Hamilton just blows Charles out of the water and Charles is just Lewis's teammate.
I honestly think that that's just what's going to happen. I think from the moment the calendar turned and Lewis Hamilton became a Ferrari driver, that was the end of the line for Charles, which is going to be really unfortunate that Charles will now be the Carlos Sainz of the Ferrari duo, and we'll see what it's like to be the plan B of it all. But it's the dynamic of the Ferrari drivers is going to be really interesting. And they have spent so much of the off season and all of their available, driving of historic cars to get Lewis comfortable, I really think is going to have come at the expense of Charles. And now Lewis doesn't, Charles doesn't need as much because he's not getting used to a brand new car, brand new setup, a brand new steering wheel even. But I do think that he's going to get the short end of the stick a lot this year.
Well, not just that, but I think we're going way deep here, but I think it's well deserved because we forget Lewis Hamilton is a multi-year world champion. He's a very good driver. He's had a shit car for the last 3 years, 2 years, however many years. But if you put him in a car that got P2 in the constructors last year, like, if he was at Ferrari last year, I think it would have been a completely different season for Ferrari. I think it would have been a completely different outcome against McLaren. Like, he still, to me, yes, you have Max. He's a little younger. So he is the most winning driver on the grid. He's the most, decorated. And I think put him and Max in the same car, and it's going to be a really tight race. Like, he is a very good driver, regardless of how old he is. And so I really think we're going to see how average, a driver Charles is this year.
And the funny part about that is that's something that I feel like you and I have always understood, is that Charles is not as good as everybody says he is.
Right. Like, we've always said he's average.
He's average, and Carlos has been the better driver with a worse strategy. Race.
He's been plucked from the masses and deemed the golden boy of Ferrari. Like, Carlos has even said that. Like, they've invested so much time and money in Charles. Like, he is their golden child. Like, I knew it was me. I knew I was getting the boot because it wasn't going to come from Charles. They weren't going to kick out Charles. I knew I was the one to go. And I think it's, maybe they see a spark in him that no one else sees. But, I don't know. I don't see.
Because one of the other problems
I'm very excited for Lewis this season. I'm very excited to see him.
One of the problems with Ferrari itself is that Ferrari steps on their own foot.
Yeah.
A lot of the time,
feet in their mouth.
Right. So a lot of, their strategy is suspect, which is why you have so many times that Ferrari has blown their races. And this is not even a Charles and Carlos era problem. This is like a going back to Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello problem. So, some things are very consistent throughout all times, and that is one of them. So will Lewis be able to overcome Ferrari sometimes Ferrarying themselves will be one of the questions that we see throughout this season. But it will be very interesting to see what Charles really looks like as a driver next to someone like Lewis Hamilton. And if I were Charles, I wouldn't want to.
Yeah. And I think going back to that point, I think with Lewis coming, he brings a lot of respect. Like, I think he commands respect. And I think that even though Charles has been favored in the past, I don't think they can keep up the favoritism because I think Lewis will be like, guys, what are we doing here?
Oh, yeah.
Like, make this make, you know what I mean? And I think he's also very fair because in the last few seasons when George has had the better chance, the better feel, the better setup, whatever, like he has been the teammate and he has pushed for George to get the better strat. And so I don't think he's, you know, a whiny little bitch baby like he can be sometimes, but I think he is a good teammate. And maybe that's grown with his, you know, him getting older, but I think if Charles is in a better position, like he'll play teammate. But I don't think he'll end up playing second fiddle a lot because I think he will be the car with the better setup, the better chance.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing that Lewis is going to have that he didn't have last year is Lewis has Angela Cullen back because she has returned.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know,
Roscoe's godmother is back.
Roscoe's favorite babysitter is back. Angela Cullen was Lewis's longtime physio and basically like person who did everything for him, from carrying Roscoe the dog into the upper deck of the motorhome to holding Lewis's umbrellas to helping him, you know,
she's Lewis's right-hand woman. That is what she is. She does everything.
And she decided to take a little bit of time off from the world tour. She worked with a couple IndyCar drivers. Apparently she spent time with family. She traveled outside of the F1 circus, but if somebody called me and said, "Hey, do you want to work with me at the best team of all time and wear the red polo shirts?" Like, I would be crazy to say no, and Angela would be crazy to say no. And, clearly she's so excited to be back. And I think, like, as one of the, side characters to the main F1, circus, it's really exciting to see her back on the grid.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I think that's it for our recap.
Yes.
We've dug in. And
it's not 90 minutes.
We've given all of the opinion. We can make it 90 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. We've given all of the opinions. It's now dark outside. When we started, it was light.
I mean, it's still light, but I'm 2 time zones behind you. 1 time zone behind you. I don't know how many time zones behind you I am.
What is time a time zone? Difficult.
I don't know how time zones work anymore.
Welcome
time is
to my
so
life
hard.
Of living in South America. I was like you because I wasn't changing.
Yeah.
But, like, we were always it was just horrible. Anyways. Yeah. Okay, so I'm super excited for the season. Can't wait to watch Drive to Survive, and I'm really just excited for Australia. Those are my final thoughts.
Yeah, my final thoughts are the season is going to be fun. I also know that I promised to do a reaction to the 2010 season. Haven't finished the races yet. We will get to that eventually, probably at some point this season, maybe before I go off to camp. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, this is the state of the union of sorts of Formula One.
Welcome to our state of the wall. I feel like that's the theme. It's just like the writings on the wall.
Here are the writings that are on the wall. Here's of the Formula One right now.
Wall. Well, up next, like we've been talking about throughout the episode, we are going to watch Drive to Survive the day it comes out, maybe the day after, that weekend. We'll give you guys like 4 days, and then we're putting out our reaction video, talk through this season, what we liked, what we didn't like, how we were annoyed that Alpine had way too much airtime, the usual. We will also have our 2025 way early predictions podcast coming out. So it'll be, how we think Drivers' Championship is going to shake out, constructors, how the rookies are going to do. I'm actually very excited to talk about the rookies.
Yeah.
We can do some rookie intros as well. That might be fun. But yeah, so that has been our, I like that, the State of the Union of F1. But thanks for going off track with us, guys.